So I'm very excited to begin another edition of I Start Wondering's Conversations, where we talk to women and address women who are doing wonderful things at midlife and beyond, and also address issues that come up for women at this stage. And today we're really fortunate to have Mary Palmer join us. Mary is an author who's just put out a young adult book that is really wonderful. And she's going to visit with us today about the writing, um, for her, what it's like to write and publish at this time of life, and a little bit about the book. So it's a great teaser for all of us. So, Mary, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So, Mary, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm from Kansas originally, and I moved out to the West to Blanding, Utah, when I was 30 years old. So, and started a whole new life and began teaching. We have a small campus here of Utah State University, and I started teaching there. I got a job teaching English. Fell in love with the area, fell in love with the students. It was quite a arduous journey in some ways because we were such a small campus at the time that all of the faculty worked really, really hard. And we have two reservations that are nearby, a Navajo reservation, which is quite large, and a smaller Ute reservation, which is smaller. And the Ute reservation is about 15 miles out of town here. And so I started teaching all the classes that you can imagine in English, and even some that are outside of English, and enjoyed that. But in those early days, many of the students were older, especially from the reservation, and or from the reservations. And many of them had just really harsh life circumstances, very, very difficult circumstances. And my heart just went out to them. And it was very difficult because many of them were older women and going back to school, try to earn a living for their family and extended family. And many of them did not speak or write English very well. So it was a big challenge. I started to focus on the developmental classes to help them prepare a little bit more for college level classes, and worked with that most of my career, although I taught Shakespeare, I taught opera, I taught study skills, I taught reading, you name it, as well as the regular composition classes that you find, and the regular literature classes. And because of those challenges, I started to do also some program development for the college to extend the time that the students were in class, and really developed a fine developmental program for students. So that's my background a little bit. I retired. I was talking to an English teacher last night from the high school, and he said when he retired, he said, "Oh, joy, I never have to grade another paper again." And I felt the same way. Very glad not to have to grade papers. It's a lot of work. One of my colleagues and I figured out one time that we were working weekly, probably 70 to 80 hours a week, just to do the preparation, to do the grading, and then to do the actual teaching. So it was a big job, but I'm grateful for the experience.
Well,
Yeah.
and all of those experiences really, it sounds like, have given you such a rich background. And that's I'm guessing helped translate into your next chapter, one of many I know, of being an author. So what drew you to writing books?
Well, that started when I was quite young. Probably it's true for everybody. But when I was 8 years old, I made a very clear decision that I wanted to be a writer. And I was on fire with it when I was a teenager and young adult. And and my friends at the university where I went, we were all on fire to be writers. And we swore that by the time we were 30, we'd have a book published. And so 40 years later, life takes you on detours.
That is so true.
And as I went along, I had when I moved out here to Utah, I had a young son. He was not quite 2 yet, and um, now he's an adult. But um, I have learned since I was so passionate about writing that many years ago that there are things that are really important in life, and one of them is family. And so my focus has changed a little bit, and I think easing up on that hard drive to get published has really been helpful to me. So I don't know if you want any more clarification about that, but
No, that's fabulous. So you didn't quite make it at 30 in your goal to be published, but you have now. So this book, and I will show it, and we'll put information about it in the show notes. Was this your first book that you published, or did you have other books?
it is the first book I published. It's not the first book I've written.
Okay.
And some say that the first book is your practice novel. I wrote the first book. It's called Wind's Child, while I was still teaching.
Uh-huh.
And so I could only write when there was a break in the teaching and I didn't have
Right.
a grade. So that book is based in Kansas on my grandmother's life period. And it's kind of episodic because I didn't have the continuity to write full time at that time. But um and then I've written a second novel that's a sequel to that first one, which is called Bird. And it's just an ongoing saga of that young woman's experiences, what she had. So
Perfect. So are you ever going to publish those two?
they're at the editors right now. Um, I have asked him if he thought they were publishable because the first is so episodic. The second one I think is quite good. It has a female protagonist instead of the young boy as the main character.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and also my grandmother's parents immigrated from the Czech Republic, and so it's about the Czech immigrant experience, and I've woven in family stories into the book, even though it's fictional. So anyway.
So in other words, you are replicating and modernizing Willa Cather.
Um, in some ways, yeah.
That was
I don't compare myself to her at all, but yeah. Yeah.
that was my book group selection for my main book group. We just read it earlier this year, so you're bringing me back to those stories, which are fabulous. I'm looking forward. Hopefully, he'll say it's publishable.
I hope so too. I feel a responsibility in some ways to the characters,
Right.
and I'd like them to find the light of day besides just my looking at them, knowing them. So
Sure. No.
we'll see what
So,
happens.
so you've had this journey from age 8 on. to be an author, what does it feel like to publish now, have a real book at this point in life?
Um, it's a very good question. Thank you for asking it.
You're welcome.
The town I live in is probably 3,500 people. And I had I had two friends who um gave me a dinner and had a book signing. It was just the four of us. One of the husbands came, had me autograph my book, and I just laughed at them. I said, "Honey, you guys know me." But they asked me questions about the book, um, and we had a good time. But um, I have to say that it's again, it's not my top priority, and I'm also quite shy. And so, unlike my brother who is not shy and has three books published, I don't promote myself. I just
Mhm.
say, okay, if people want to read it, fine. Um,
Oh,
so good answer, or do you want more?
no, I think that's great. Well, I also sit there. There also are women I talk to who say, I I'm past that opportunity. It's gone. And so I need to let go of it because I'm whatever age I am. And I think what you offer is a role model of, that is a story we're telling ourselves. And it doesn't have to be true. We can do what we want to do, is just making up our mind to actually plow through and reach that goal. And you've done that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you. I'm actually pretty passionate about older people still reaching their potential. I'm
Mhm.
very passionate about that. So,
And so you have reached it, because I have to say, I really, and I'm not saying, well, okay, let me say, you sent me a review copy, which I really appreciated. And I really enjoyed this book. And I am not saying that because we are friends. I'm not saying that because it was a book to read, which always makes me happy. But I really thought this was really a fascinating book, and it really covered some areas that I think are important for people to, and especially young adults, because this is in the young adult genre, young adults to really sit with. Um, so, why did you decide to write young adult literature?
after I retired from the college, I went to the high school. I retired a little bit early from the college. I went to our local high school and I started to work with at-risk students.
Mm.
I don't know if you can see a theme going through my life here.
Yeah.
And these were high school students that were really at risk. And my heart just went out to them, and they got into all kinds of trouble, all kinds of mischief, had all kinds of trouble at school, um, didn't know who they were. I watched a boy who was part Navajo and part Anglo American, and the trouble that he had just feeling like he fit in anywhere. And so the book is actually um, addressed for the high school students here,
Hmm.
that hopefully they will um, find their way through this character to transformation and to their full potential as well. Um,
I love that. I love that idea. And, just kind of setting the scene is, correct me if I'm wrong. So the main character is a young man named Andrew, who's a teenage boy in Utah who gets himself into a little trouble. And instead of being incarcerated, he's maybe incarcerated is too strong a word, but he would have been. Um, we'll use that for the moment. You can correct me, but he ends up being sent to Alaska to be with his grandfather, who's the former sheriff in the community in Utah. And from there, it's kind of a relationship story that in so many different facets of whether you're talking about the land, whether you're talking about the grandfather and grandson. You also have dolphins and friends and uh, all sorts of things that I don't want to give away the story, but it just really um, is a surprising and really entertaining and really thought-provoking novel. Did I capture that right?
Yeah, thank you. Very good.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, and it was fun to read this too because I had just earlier this year finished Kristen Hanna's The Great Alone, which the main character for me in that book was Alaska. And so I felt like, okay, I'm stepping back into Alaska, which I have never visited. And it was really fascinating to kind of get a sense of the independent spirit and the tranquility and the respect for nature, but also there's a sense of self-reliance that I think Andrew, the grandson, really is encouraged to develop within himself.
Yes, very good. Thank you.
So again, there are many relationships in this book, but the key relationship is between Andrew and his grandfather, Chess. So, and that was a relationship that really spoke to me because initially it was a little fractured and then it started coming together. So, in today's world, why are these types of intergenerational relationships important, do you think?
I think not only in today's world, but also when I was a teenager,
Mhm.
um, my mom and dad were divorced, and we moved away from our hometown, moved near my mom's parents. And my granddad and my grandmother were just lifesavers for us. I have an older brother and a younger brother, and me. My younger brother has now passed away, but I don't think we could have survived those times without my grandparents. My granddad gave me the basis for a male that was stable and loving and um, and protective.
Mhm.
So in my own life, that's been important. And in the students' lives at the high school here in Utah, I see that it has been a problem for many of the men. It's changing, but many of the men in the Navajo culture had a really hard time and they did not stick with the family. And so lots of times it was the mom or the grandmother that was raising the kids. And I just feel very strongly again that it's so important to have that male aspect in our lives that helps us to know that we're safe, to help us know that we're loved, um, to give us a role model of what a healthy man's role is in the world. And but it's also good for Chess in this novel because he was pretty heartbroken and he needed his grandson and to help him have somebody to love and teach and um, and ultimately to help repair the relationship with his daughter. So those interweaving of families, I think family members, it's so important for all of us.
Mhm.
And today's world, too, I think um, lots of the young people are very tied to technology. And so the on the ground, real life relationships are sometimes a little bit harder for them, but they need them so much. Um, a lot of the young people I know are experiencing depression. They're going through rough times because of social media or harassment, and they need those adults. One adult in the life of a child can make all the difference if that's uh, an adult that will help them. So, anyway, very important.
Well, and what I love too, thank you. That was beautiful. You know, what I also loved about how you did, you created this character of Chess he created a structure for Andrew to live in, but he wasn't micromanaging him. I mean, he did, it's like get up, a little bit of that, but I mean, he really created a structure within the day and using healthy things, whether it was food or exercise or responsibility for a dog, to really invite Andrew to move out of the patterns he had gotten himself into, which we all get ourselves into. So, I mean, at any age, but Chess really created that structure and that environment for Andrew to begin to thrive, I think.
Yes. Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, he used everything he knew
He did.
to
Well,
help Andrew.
I totally understand sorry to my brother, but my brother had his moments too, and it was more my mom who had to try and hold those boundaries for him. But I do understand the challenges of the the trying to become a man. Must be. I mean, that feels like it's in today's world, and even my brother's age, etc. It's quite the quest, and we have lost some of the guardrails to help them do it, and some of the experiences.
Right. And in the past, of course, the young men would go through initiations in different cultures. So would the young women to go from childhood to manhood or childhood to womanhood. And we don't do that much anymore.
Right, right. And this really kind of starts recapturing some of that, giving that quest that, as Joseph Campbell and some of the other people would talk about. So it really is a wonderfully thought-provoking book. And it really, I think the other piece, as you set it up, is it, and you mention it, was that relationship really invited Chess to step into um, the role of an elder, a wise elder, and hold that space and he was already starting to do it for some of the neighbors' kids, but more so for his grandson. And you could see the kind of the pushing of that Angie would push against him to try and see what the boundaries were or what he could take advantage of. But it was just really lovely to kind of watch that relationship unfold.
Thank you. Yeah. Um, yeah, it's a relationship that does have a dynamic to it that has depth, I think. And it continues to progress. And I am going to write a sequel if I live long enough. I've got 6 chapters written of it, but I'm working on another book right now that's nonfiction. So we'll see how that goes, but it will continue to that relationship will continue to unfold, not only with Chess but also with Andrew's friends. So we'll get more of a depth and in-depth look at what's going on with those other characters as well.
Oh, I love that. And will the dolphin make an appearance?
I've I've moved them back to Utah, so no.
Oh, well, I guess not.
Back
Oh.
to the desert.
So chances are good, no dolphin will be joining, but who
No.
knows what else might come.
Yeah, who knows?
And so, well, one of the things, and you kind of alluded to this, but really the book addresses the concept of transformation for many of the book's characters. And when we talk about transformation, it really doesn't have an age limit in it because Andrew transforms, Chess transforms, you know, you kind of see it all the way through. Can you talk me through why this was important to add to the book?
Um, I just have to back up here a little bit. When you talk about adding to the book, um, I I just have to say, I hope this doesn't sound strange, but the characters take on a life of their own, and so it was more like what was coming through rather than I had an intention for
Right,
something to happen.
right.
And as those characters came into a dynamic relationship, things just started happening that I didn't necessarily expect or know ahead of time that it was going to happen. Um, so I just had like a broad vision of what might go on in this book and an intent for what might go on. But the actual writing, I just have to say the characters did the writing.
Sure.
So, but when you put anybody, or almost anybody into a situation where they are loved and where there is structure and they are respected, um, things are going to change. So it wasn't just for the granddad. It wasn't just for Andrew. It was also for Andrew's dad, who had made some really unhealthy choices in his life that affected Andrew and Andrew's mom. But even with that, put him in relationship, you might have said, oh my gosh, there's no hope for this guy. There was hope for him. And he did when you uncovered all the layers, he did love his son. And I think that father-son relationship where a child knows that his or her father really loves them, even though the adult might have made really poor choices, that's transformational in itself. Do you want me to expand?
Go for it if you want to.
um, there is a transformation that goes on for all of the characters, and I just have a strong belief that that's possible for all of us,
Mhm.
no matter what our ages and no matter what our life circumstances are. And I do believe that we have the ability to make choices in our lives, even though it might seem like the circumstances do not allow actual choices. I think
Mhm.
there are choices that we can make on what we focus on that will change the trajectory of our lives completely. And even though the outward circumstances might look like they have not changed, the inner circumstances have. And that makes all the difference. Well, and if the inner circumstances change, I also believe the outward ones will. So,
Yeah.
at any rate, so
Yeah.
there is a lot of transformation that goes on with these characters. Not so much with the dogs.
I don't know about that.
Well,
Or the dolphins, maybe.
yeah, but the dogs are really loved.
They are. And they help with the transformation. I
Yeah,
think
they
that
do.
they're key players in the transformation, as is the dolphin.
The dolphin is
Um,
big.
and
And
so I think,
nature.
and the what?
And nature.
And nature, right. I think that there's a symbiotic relationship among everything, and it's our choices that help us move forward, or stay stuck. And
Yes. Well
in the
said.
case of this book, they've moved forward.
Yes, well said. Even though there are enemies lurking in the caves.
I know, and that will be part two. So, so you are working on another book. Anything you want to share on that book, or and you don't have to. I just figured I'd ask because I'm nosy and I kind of know what it is. I think.
Yeah, I'm working on a book with one of my best friends, um, Catherine Leathers, and it's been a journey. Um, w- just being a co-author is a journey, but just working with Catherine has been mesmerizing. She is so intuitive. And what we're doing is we're writing about Yellowstone. She was a ranger in Yellowstone in the 70s. So it's including her stories. It's including a look at um, the intelligence that is in nature in Yellowstone and everywhere, the intelligent energy. And also we meditate together, and we write those down. So some of it's including meditations.
Oh, wonderful.
So it's a very unusual book. It's taken us a while to integrate everything, but with Catherine's leading on it because of uh, she's amazing. I think it will all work together
For
and
sure.
help people who visit Yellowstone to be transformed
I
by
know
their
that.
encounter with nature.
I mean, that's a special place. I've only been once, but hope to go back. But all of our national parks are really amazing. So I think that's going to be a wonderful book. So any timeline, or is it kind of when it happens, which is perfect.
Yep, that's the timeline. We're
Perfect.
getting closer to the end, but at any rate,
So that's the next one. And then you potentially may or may not, you are in the process of writing the next or the sequel to this one. And we'll see what happens there. So if people wanted to get this is all available on Amazon right now, correct?
right. And there's another book by a similar title. So I think you have to put in The Voice of the Dolphin by Mary Palmer, or else you'll get the other book. But the other book might be wonderful too.
Could
I,
be.
I haven't read it, but yeah.
Well, and what we'll do is again, we'll put a link to your Amazon book on the show notes for us for this edition, and that way people can go find it directly. And I hope people will read this book. It's really it, again, I read a lot and I found I was like, this is really a fun book. I was one I wasn't trying to, once I got into it, I was like, okay, I've got to find time to keep reading on this one. It's surprising me at where it's going and how it's going and getting immersed into Andrew's life and then chess and then all of the things that kind of come about, and I was looking at the categories. I mean, I said young adult, but it's also nature, science fiction, you know, and so it's got this interesting mix that, again, you don't know where it's going when you're reading, but it is really kind of fun.
Thank you, Dorian.
You're welcome. Well, I think anything else that you want to share before we close down?
Not that I can think of, but thank you for this opportunity.
Well, thank you for agreeing, and I hope that, again, I hope people read this book, but also I hope that, the purpose of this was also to inspire women who have reached this point in life to follow your dreams, especially dreams that might have started when you were 8 or in your 20s and they just haven't come to fruition yet. Go for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Go.
Absolutely.
So, so thank you so much, and we will look forward to part 2 of this conversation when one of the books comes out, whether it's you and Catherine or